Welcome back, fellow farmers and friends, to Frankenmuth Farms, picking up where we left off in episode 6. So we have our open air gardens down. We have purchased the spinnery. We officially have our first production point. And episode 7 brings with it more decisions that we need to make here on the farm. I'm going to go over some of those decisions with you here very quickly. If you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel. We put out tons of farming simulator content. We have everything from the Beginner's Guide series to Frankenmuth Farms to a No Man's Land series, and we also do live streams. We have much more farming simulator content in the making as well. So without further ado, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, drop your comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking about the series, about the channel, and let's get into it here on Frankenmuth Farms. So as mentioned before, we did end up picking up the spinnery, which is good because one of our open air gardens that we have is currently producing cotton, which we can take to the spinnery and have fabric created for us, which later on our intent is we are going to take that fabric and we are going to sell it unless we have enough money to purchase the tailor shop, and then at which point we are going to take our fabric to the tailor shop and we're going to have some clothing made. Now, some of the decisions that we are faced with here in this episode is none other than some money, some financial decisions that we need to make. Let me explain further what we're looking at. So I came in here to the sales page and I noticed that there is a couple pieces of equipment that I really like. I think we did look at this last episode and I didn't actually look closely enough, but now that I have actually looked, there are some things of interest on this sales page for us in this episode. Starting off with the Case Magnum CVX. This tractor right here, base is 409 horsepower. There is not much that we would not be able to do on the farm if we had a 409 horsepower tractor. It's currently on sale for $197,000. I would love nothing more than to have 409 horsepower available here with this Case tractor. Looks really nice. I love the fact that it has the 3-point attach in the front. It's got everything that we need, all of the power that we need for everything it is that we are currently doing. However, you can see the price, though, is the sticking point. So this brings us into one of the first points of discussion with this episode here. So currently, right now, we have the New Holland T6. It's 125 horsepower. We've had it for quite a while. It's been the first tractor that we purchased for Frankenmuth Farms here. So there is some sentimental value to this tractor. However, 125 horsepower, we're very limited by the things that we can do with this tractor here. Now, I have seen some comments that say, hey, when you're hooking up to the plow the way that you are, it is a little cheaty and it's just kind of like cheating money because we're getting plowing done a lot quicker than what we should be able to do. Not to mention, this tractor should not even really be able to pull the plow that we like to use, which is none other than the Lizard 9-meter plow. You can see here that if we take it from 6 meter, which currently requires 260 horsepower, so right away, the New Holland can't even pull the 6 meter plow. But we like to do 9 meter working with here because we want to get these fields plowed as quickly as possible. We typically hook up to it from the wrong side, which overrides the horsepower requirement, and you can absolutely just cruise across the fields. But if we hooked up to it correctly, we actually need 320 horsepower to pull this plow. Now, looking at that Case tractor that's on the sales page, that would take care of this issue for us. But how we are going to get there to be able to afford this tractor is actually part of the problem that we are faced with in this episode, because we would have to offload our New Holland T6 for basically, just call it $68,000. We currently have $112,000 in the bank. So if we offloaded this for $68,000, that is basically going to put us at $180,000 in the bank. We still cannot afford the Case tractor. We're still about $13,000 short. Actually, we're about $17,000 short. The other options that we have is we could get rid of the truck. The truck is also, might as well just say $20,000. So between getting rid of the New Holland T6 and the Lizard 1986 pickup truck, we could then afford that Case tractor. We could also even venture into selling our seeder for an additional $4,000. And we also have the thing that I would do before we got into any of this is I would pick up these fertilizing contracts, which unfortunately have actually changed on us. So there were previously 6 different contracts available for fertilization in which we could have completed in order to make some additional money. So I think what we're going to do is with these 3 remaining fertilization contracts, we are just going to take these right now. And I think what we're going to do is we are just going to, let me see the most financially smart way to do this. We have the tractor. We'll lease the spreader, and we are just going to accept all 3 of these fertilization contracts. Again, keeping in mind that as we complete these contracts, we will get a discount on our field purchases. A lot of our fields right now, we have 5% discounts on because we've been doing so many contracts here in this series so far to help us make some money. So right now we're looking at about $33,000, maybe $34,000 total in contracts here, which is good because we're going to need that income if we end up going with the Case tractor. Now let's talk about some of the disadvantages of getting that tractor here on the farm. Disadvantages are going to include, it's going to break the bank. We are basically going to be resetting ourselves back to $0. We're not going to be able to really afford much else of anything, but we are going to have a tractor that can do absolutely everything. Now, some of my concerns initially here are we are going to be approaching the harvest season for our wheat field here shortly. We can see here that wheat is available to be harvested in July and August. And then if we scroll up here, we take a look at field 30 down here, which is ours. Currently has wheat planted in it. We need to be able to have enough money to afford a combine harvester in order to take care of this field. Combine harvesters are extremely expensive. Even to lease combine harvesters, it can be pretty pricey. Now, what we could do realistically is we could lease a cheaper version of a combine harvester. We could go with the Rostel Mash here, and leasing that's going to cost us $3,800. And we can take a look. We have a 6.5 meter working with header that would go with it. We could probably even bump up here just to get some increased capacity. Let's take a look here at this New Holland. We're not going to really change anything. It holds 9,300 liters. To lease that is still $13,600. So realistically, we could probably get away with leasing a combine harvester when it comes time to harvest the wheat field, because we are also going to be doing contracts between now and then as well. And I think ultimately the last thing that we would look at doing is we're probably going to flip field 32 for profit, and we're going to make $86,000 off of that. I would flip the field now and sell it for the $86,000 plus complete the contracts, and I'd really put ourselves up above the 200 grand mark, at which point we could start looking at the Case tractor. Still leaves us some money left over in the bank to do all the rest of the things that we need to do. However, if I flip this field now, we're leaving the entire yield of that field on field 30, meaning we're not going to be able to harvest any of the wheat. We're not going to be able to put it into our silo. We're not going to be able to take it to any sell point. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, maybe it's worthwhile. You're going to make more money off flipping the field immediately than if you wait until July, August to harvest the wheat, because wheat doesn't sell for a lot of money, especially once we get into the harvest season. We're going to have to hold on to that wheat until December and sell for its highest price at $421 per 1,000 liters. Basically, what's going to happen is, let's just say we pull 10,000 liters of wheat off of that field. Basically, just take 421, multiply it by 10. That is the amount of money total that we are going to make off of that wheat field. It is a pretty low number. It's kind of a bummer to think about it. We've done a lot of work. We've invested some money into that field, but I don't know. But what I do know is we have some fertilizer contracts that we need to complete. So let's go ahead and let's get ourselves hooked up with a fertilizer spreader that we can have delivered to the farm. We are, of course, going to go with our Kubota with the 10,000 liter capacity. I would almost be willing to bet we could get away with doing this fertilizing contract with the 3,900 liter capacity. I'm going to take the chance. We're going to roll the dice, save a little bit of money here on the leasing. We're going to go ahead and pick that up. Now, as far as fertilizer is concerned, we are just going to get a couple big bags here. So let's go ahead and let's just do 3 of those. We get 3 of those delivered to the farm. That's $5,000 right there in itself, plus the leasing fee for the fertilizer spreader. So we're about into this for $7,000, which basically means that like about 25% of the profit that we're going to make off doing these contracts has already been spent on just equipment alone to get set up for these fertilizing contracts. So one thing I did not consider with this fertilizer spreader and this New Holland T6 right here is the weight of the fertilizer spreader with the fertilizer in it on the back of this tractor. There for a second, I thought the New Holland was just going to tip right over. Little heavy for this small tractor here, but we should be able to manage it. We're just going to kind of zip around here real quick and knock out these fertilizer contracts. So yeah, with the dilemmas that we're faced, you can see there I'm kind of sliding out. This is definitely a little too heavy for this small of a tractor. With the dilemmas that I am faced in this episode, the big thing for me is I want to be able to have the necessary equipment to take care of the farm just in general. That's why the case tractor, look at it, we can't turn for anything with this attached to the back. I probably should have picked up a weight for the tractor as well, but we'll survive. We're only getting lighter in the fertilizer spreader. We're going to be okay. So the case tractor for me is really nice because it will do everything that we need on the farm, but it is only half the battle. That case tractor is no good to me if I don't have the necessary equipment to manage our fields, such as plows, such as fertilizer spreaders, seeders, all this kind of good stuff that we need in order to keep crop planted in the ground. I can't just go ahead and blow all of my money on one piece of equipment and think that I'm getting a good deal, because now with the hit that we're going to take on our bank account combined with needing to lease additional equipment to do things, we're kind of right back to square one of we're just going to have a hard time with keeping money in the bank account. On the flip side to that conversation, I tell myself we've already been managing this farm with only one tractor, and that is the New Holland T6 that we currently have. And that only has 125 horsepower. So it's kind of one of those deals. Do we just go ahead and roll with trading in some vehicles, upgrade ourselves to the case, look at getting some additional contracts done? We can still keep our sights set on getting the oil mill, and then we can also purchase the property that we've already discussed that we are looking at. We can kind of just do all three things, and then as we get those new areas of farmland purchased, we're going to have a tractor that's fully equipped and fully capable of helping us manage those new fields. As we finish up the fertilizer contracts on the 3 fields that we just had, we're going to go ahead and jump out of the tractor here. I think we're just going to go ahead and return this because we no longer need the fertilizer spreader. So that's good. That's done, taken care of. Let's go down to our contracts page and let's turn in these 3 contracts here. We're going to collect, and collect on those. That gave us about 30, yeah, I'd say pretty close to $34,000 maybe by the time everything was all said and done. So we are now currently up to $139,000 in the bank. You're probably wondering yourself, dang, like when did you make all that additional money? Like last episode, weren't you down to like $50,000 or $60,000? You'd be correct, but we did pick up some fertilizing contracts that paid pretty well towards the end of episode 6 that we finished as the episode was closing out. So now with these fertilizing contracts complete, I think we're about to make a pretty crucial decision in this episode. It could impact the future of Frankenmuth Farms. So real quick, looking at the cotton balance that we have that is currently in the spinnery here, I cannot remember now for the life of me if we had 17,000 or if we had 16,000, but I want to say I believe this very well may be going up now. I think it actually just went up since we've been looking at it, which is a good thing because that means that our open air garden is actually distributing cotton over to the spinnery. So we no longer will have any need to have to transport pallets. For as long as we have the open air garden producing cotton, the spinnery is going to continue to produce fabric for us. It is going down. We might have to take a look at this. Maybe it just kind of fluctuates back and forth, but we'll kind of experiment with it. Worst case scenario, we know that we can just take the pallets over there, drop them off, keep the spinnery going, keep it producing fabric for us so that we can make clothing. As far as our decision is concerned for what it is that we are going to do here on the farm, I think I have made up my mind. I think we need to purchase this tractor. I think we just need to go for it. We need to do it. And here's why I'm thinking this. One, because I don't know when this is actually going to disappear off the sales page. That's one of my big concerns right now, is that it's going to disappear off the sales page and we're not going to get a chance to purchase it, period. And we're going to really miss out on this piece of equipment. So I'm going to do real quick is just to kind of help ourselves out is I am going to bump this down to 0.5, try to slow everything down just a little bit. We are going to probably sell, unfortunately, we're going to probably sell all of this equipment here just to help us out. I think we're going to sell the seeder because I'll explain why I'm going to sell the seeder and why this tractor is important to us as I go through this process. Our truck, we really don't need. It's $19,000. We can sell it. We need the money. And our tractor. This is probably the most painful part of this. Now, what I will say is we do have two options from here. And that option is either offload the New Holland T6, or we can offload our wheat field and sell it for the profit that we already know that it goes for, which is basically, what is it, around $86,000, I think is what our field is currently going for, $86,448. Here's why I think now I'd be more willing to sell this field. It is because I know that the money that we're going to make off the wheat field we're missing out on. But we are going to absolutely make up for that with the soybean field that we are going to plant. And I think once we sell, if we were to sell both the New Holland and flip our field and sell that for profit, what it's going to actually allow us to do is purchase field 14. I think we're going to have enough money to purchase not only the tractor, but also I think we're going to have enough money to purchase this field as well, too. I don't know, though. The more I look at that, the more I think that that's a totally inaccurate statement. So basically, we're going to have a tractor with no fields. Or we retain our wheat field and we just sell our New Holland tractor. That's going to put us at $220,000. We purchase the case. We still have some money left over in the bank. Plus, any future fields that we get, whether we retain this field down here, field 30, or we purchase field 23, or we purchase any field for that matter. One, we're going to have the horsepower to operate the plow. More importantly, we're going to have the horsepower to operate seeders and planters. That is my real big concern right now, is when it comes time to seed and plant fields, there's not very much that our New Holland is going to be able to do for us. We have a couple smaller seeders, and when I say smaller, I really mean smaller. Even this seeder right here, this planter, or I guess it is a seeder, has too much horsepower requirement for our New Holland. We are only at 125 horsepower. Even the entry level seeder is pegged out at 125, only holds 600 liters to begin with anyways. If we pick up the case, that opens the door to so many different options for seeders. We can have this one, does 6 meters, does fertilizing and seed all at the same time. We have the Lemkin, which is only 180, but also has a 12-meter working width, but only does seed, does not do fertilizer. I mean, we have so much more that we could do with that case tractor. Yeah, I mean, I think we need the case. I think we've come up with enough reasons as to why we would need that. I mean, we're going to have enough minus that seeder right there. but we're going to have enough horsepower to run all of these seeders. We could run this horse right here for 195,000. We could run this one right here. They both do seed and fertilizer at the same time. That's a 6 meter working width. That's a 12. Definitely would prefer to have that, but beggars cannot be choosers at this stage in the game. So I think with that, we go ahead and we sell our New Holland T6. I hate to do it. It is the starting tractor. It is kind of where we started with everything. I mean, realistically, it is where we started with everything. In order to advance and do anything that we need to do, we need the horsepower. Let's make sure it's still here. That's good. Let's go ahead. This is tough. This is tough right here. Let me just in case, let's save the game again. And we're going to go back to the sales page. We're going to make sure, again, it's still there. Good. Let's go ahead, sell the New Holland. It's such that I cannot believe we just did that. But it gives us enough money to purchase what we need to purchase. Done deal. $28,853 left in the bank. So again, we're not completely broke. And this thing is actually in pretty good shape too. I mean, 10% discount. It's only got 9.6 hours on it. Does require a little bit of maintenance, but this just opened up so many different possibilities for us now. We're not restricted by anything. Again, we're going to be able to work all the farmland. We're going to be able to run all of our seeders, all of our planters, any sort of fertilizer spreader that we pick for this. A plow, we're definitely going to be able to utilize a plow with no issue with this tractor whatsoever. I think in the long run, we're going to see that we made the right decision by going with the case. Well, and with that, we can just go ahead and make about 10,000 of those dollars back that we just spent. There is another fertilizing contract that has popped up, so I think I'm absolutely going to go ahead and accept the contract on that one. We'll get that knocked out here in just a little bit. But other than that, looking at the calendar here, I really don't think there's much else for us to do. So we are going to retain our wheat field at least for one harvest. I think after we do the initial harvest here on this wheat field, we are going to absolutely flip this field. And we're going to always keep field 14 in mind because it is a moderately decently sized field that gives a good yield. And it is relatively inexpensive. And who knows, by the time we are ready to purchase this field, we will have done more contracts for Samuel Ortega, and we will get a further discount. I mean, we'll get another 5% off of $109,000. So that's going to drop us down probably close to, I'd say maybe down somewhere around $101,000, $102,000 for this field here. And so this field is, in essence, as long as we get the correct contracts from Sam Ortega here, this field's actually only going to get cheaper for us, and we still have some other moderately priced options around us, such as field 23 down here, 2.5 hectares, 98% yield potential. Not bad for it being largely silty clay, but realistically, we could do some contracts in the next couple months, and we could probably even afford field 18 while we still have field 30, and we can actually start kind of working our way a little bit closer to the farm. Ideally, in the long run, I would love to own fields 22, 20, and 21 and have those be our three primary fields that we function off of. And from there, we would just have to determine what crops that we are going to plant. So let me go ahead and get set up and get ready for this fertilizer contract. Let's see if we can actually get a bit of a cheaper fertilizer spreader. So that's 25,000 there. Let's see, what else do we have available to us? Realistically, I kind of feel like the Kubota is just really the way to go. If I'd have known that this fertilizer contract popped up, I would not have turned in that fertilizer spreader so quickly, but we did it. So now we kind of gotta live with that. I'm thinking 3,000 liters of fertilizer is going to work for us once again. It does go pretty far. So let me get hooked up, filled up, and then we will move out and get these couple contracts knocked out. And at which point, I think we're going to move into the month of May. And you can bet the one thing this case is not going to do is struggle with the weight of this fertilizer spreader. And I just realized we purchased entirely too much fertilizer. For whatever reason, I was thinking we had multiple fertilizing contracts again when we do not. We actually just have the one. So I probably could have gotten away with just purchasing 1,000 liters of fertilizer and we still would have gotten this whole entire field done and it would have cost me even less money. But I think what we're going to do is we will keep the remaining fertilizer that is unused from this contract. I do think we're going to keep that available to us on the farm in the case that we need it in the future for anything that we are doing. It'll at least save us a little bit of money from having to purchase all the fertilizer all over again. I did also finally remember to bump the time back up to the 3 times multiplier. As stated, I think we are going to move out of the month of April and into May after we complete this fertilizing contract here. One, that's going to bring us new contracts for the month of May, which is good because we're going to get some additional options for making some extra money. There may be some harvesting contracts that pop up, which if there are, then we're definitely all about doing some harvesting contracts. That's for sure. Baling contracts, I don't know. We may end up staying away for some baling contracts just for a minute, unless the amount of money that we're going to make off of them is just, you know, something that we absolutely cannot pass up. But at the same point, we can also do plowing contracts now because we're going to be able to correctly utilize the plow now that we have the proper amount of horsepower. So right there, Leroy Wilson grants you 20% discount on future fields. That is us. That is another reason why doing contracts is actually so beneficial, because we are just making money hand over fist doing these fertilizing contracts. So we're going to go ahead and collect on that. That's $10,000 more dollars. We're right back up. We're kind of climbing out of it now. We're at $32,000 after purchasing this new tractor. I am going to just drive back over to the farm real quick and drop off this fertilizer here by one of our barns. I actually might even be able to put it into our silo. Might have to check and see if we can actually do that. But nonetheless, we'll unload the fertilizer spreader and return that. And I think we are going to move into the month of May, which is going to bring us one more month closer to our wheat field harvest. Man, I am excited to finally harvest that field. I think I'm actually probably more excited to flip the field and sell it for the profit. I mean, if I'm just being honest, I kind of think that's what I'm probably more excited for. Plus, whatever money we make between now and that time as well is probably going to put us in a position where maybe we can purchase a larger field, which is also going to give us more yield, which means still going to make more money. All right, it's a nice, bright, early morning here on Frankenmuth Farms in the month of May. First thing I want to check and see is how our productions are doing. Our cotton did in fact go up, so that is good. We no longer have to really worry about transporting pallets for cotton. Now, the other thing I would like to do, and I probably should have done this last month before we came into May, is I would like to take our soybeans and just set them to storing. I think that's what we're going to do here, because I want to start putting these... I want to start putting them into our silo system. So let's set those to storing. Now the pallets are actually going to spawn out here for us, and at which point we can deposit the pallets into our silo. We do have one pallet of cotton that's going to need to go into the spinnery. We'll get that over there at some point. But big order of business right now. Let's take a look at what contracts we have as the month of May gets started. We got some cultivating contracts. Once again, we've got $25,000 worth of fertilizing contracts. We actually didn't get too much. Realistically, we didn't really get that much. This cultivating contract's not too bad. Field 25. Let's go ahead and take a peek at field 25 and see what that's looking like. I feel like that's going to be... it's really not that bad. It's not that large of a field. We could maybe even see if we can lease a better cultivator. It's glad to see that basically all the same things are still on sale. That Fent is still there, kind of teasing me a little bit. But we got the better deal on the tractor with the case, because even with the engine upgrade, it maxes out at 415. Our case right now, stock, is 409, and we spent significantly less money on it. It also is worth $105,000, so we can keep that in mind in the future if we need to flip that for any reason. Cultivators here. A field of that size, I would definitely probably want a cultivator that does at least a 6 meter working width. This one here, 7.5, not that bad either. These ones back here, 440 horsepower, so we're getting a little out of control with those ones there. This one right here, the Vaderstad, is the one that they want us to utilize with the contract. It is 450 horsepower, so we couldn't really use it with the tractor that we currently have. This one, however, we could. 12.2 working meter width, or eventually I'm going to get this stuff correct. The working width is 12.2 meters, which is really not that bad. Now, if we go in here to customize, and of course, you know, on Misled Farms, we don't do anything slow, so we would bump up the working speed for that to the highest that's going to go, 15 mile an hour. If we were to lease this, it does cost us $2,000 more than the discount that we would get off of the total contract price if we just utilized what they are providing us. But again, I can't necessarily use the cultivator that they are recommending for the contract because my tractor is not strong enough to pull that one. After we had all of that conversation about getting a stronger tractor, the first piece of equipment that we look at, we can't pull with ours. The baling contract really doesn't look that enticing. The only probably 2 or 3 contracts I would do, once again, would probably just be the fertilizing contracts. We wouldn't have to purchase any fertilizer. We would just have to lease a fertilizer spreader, which I feel like would not be that bad. What I would do is, again, lease the Kubota. We go through, do all these, 21, so another $25,000, which based off that, you know what? I think we're going to do it. We're going to take all 3 of these fertilizing contracts. There's really nothing else that I'm that enticed with doing. We could do some of these weeding contracts. I feel like maybe the $8,000 contract wouldn't be too bad. And then we could also probably do the weeding contract on that field as well. So truthfully, and here's another way I could kind of probably cheat a little bit. So supply 24,000 liters of herbicide to Frankenmuth Farms market before time expires to make $34,000. How much would 24,000 liters of herbicide cost us is the question. So if we went, let's see, with pallets here, 2,000 liters, so we'd have to buy 12 of them. We'd actually turn a profit of $10,000 if we did that. We could literally just buy the 12,000 or 12 pallets of this to complete that contract. Is that what I was seeing? Yeah, we could basically just buy 12 of those for $24,000, transport them to the farmer's market and make our 34. But we're not going to do that. That's a little cheaty. So let's take a look here. We have 5 active contracts that are going to give us 15 plus 6 is 21, 24, 25, another $33,000, which is going to put us back upwards of 66,000. And we're basically halfway back to where we started the episode as far as money is concerned. All right, so we're going to pull just a little bit of double duty here. We're going to get our fields weeded, and then we're also going to zip over and do our fertilizing contracts and get all of these knocked out. So right now we're able to use a mechanical weeder on this field because the weeds are in their initial stages of growth. So these are small weeds, which a mechanical weeder can actually take care of for us. We'll go ahead, raise this up, get flipped around. This weeder here has a very good working width, so it's not going to take us very long to get through this field here. It is going to take us just a little bit of time. As you can see, this field is relatively large, but nonetheless should not take us very long whatsoever. And then we'll move over and get our fertilizing contracts knocked out. And we're going to see where, once again, we're going to see where we're at for some money and see if there's anything else that we can do. And you know, basically right now we're kind of just in that mode of we need to get to our harvest for our wheat field. In between that, we're just going to do the contracts that we have available. We're going to make sure that the spinnery continues to get fed with cotton so that we can continue to produce fabric. We do need to probably run over to the spinnery, though, and see how much fabric we actually have that has spawned on pallets. Collect those items up, bring them back over, store them in our barn. And then eventually, when we pick up the tailor shop, that is going to be our initial push of product that we're going to feed to the tailor shop so that we can start having clothing made. Now, this is the other thing I was thinking about. It's like one thing is we could go with the oil mill and just utilize our sunflower garden to keep the oil mill fed, and we can produce sunflower oil. The tailor shop, I don't know how much it would cost to buy that production point. However, the profit that we would make off clothing is significantly higher than even sunflower oil. Clothing sells for $10,000 on average per 1,000 liters. So at that point, even if we had like, if we went with our 10,000 liters in reference to clothing, it's $100,000 we would make off of that fabric being converted into clothing, that is. It's more stuff for us to ponder here as we work our way through all of these contracts that we just picked up. Frankenmuth Farms, the contract series. I think that's what we need to rebrand this Let's Play to. we are rolling up to the final fertilizing contract, which is actually right across the street from our wheat field here. So that is good to go. The weeding contracts took me a little longer than I would have really have liked to have spent doing weeding contracts, but nonetheless, they're done, over with. I did experiment. I did try to get a herbicide sprayer to do those weeding contracts with, but it would not work out. So we had to finish up the weeding contracts with the mechanical weeder. As I mentioned before, this is the final fertilizing contract for all of these that we recently picked up. This is literally going to be a pass and a half, and this contract is going to be completed for us, and then we will be able to turn these items in. One thing I did realize is we picked up another discount, another 5% addition to our discount on field 14, which is the one field that we've been looking at purchasing. Let's go ahead and take a look and see how much that field would cost us now that we've done 2 contracts on it and get a total of a 10% discount for it. Let's see how much money that field sells for now. So taking a look here, it basically dropped another $5,000 off of that field, which brings the total price down to $109,000. Not too shabby whatsoever. Relatively good price for that size of a field. If we can manage to get another contract between now and maybe the next couple months here in future episodes, we're definitely going to keep an eye out for field 14 for contracts, because with another 5%, we max out at 25% discount, but I'm thinking with another 5%, that'll drop this down to below $100,000, which will absolutely be very good for us, because that puts that field very much within reach. So let's go ahead and collect on all of these contracts that we just completed here. $63,000 in the bank, pretty close to 64,000. I'm pretty satisfied with that amount of money right there. We're going to make our way back over to the farm, and realistically, we're going to take a look and see what else can possibly be done in the month of May. We need to check the status of our wheat field, just make sure everything is hanging good with that as far as weed control, the fertilization, and pH and all that stuff. We really should not have any issues with any of that stuff with field 30 down here. Let's go ahead and take a look. We'll go to the precision farming page. Yeah, pH balances are good. Nitrogen balances are good. I don't really see anything that would be alarming to say that we don't have any weed growth taking place in field 30, so that's good. Right now, we're pretty low maintenance for the most part until we get into the harvest season. Realistically, the harvest season is where we're going to have the most amount of work to do, because we are going to have to harvest that field. But I'm very excited to see what we get as far as options for harvesting contracts. Those are going to be very beneficial for us, because not only will we make money for completing the contract, but there will be a certain amount of that yield that we will be able to sell off ourselves and also make some money on that as well. So those are very lucrative for us. We need to keep our eyes out for any sort of harvesting contracts when they do come due. We are going to put the case back in the barn. I don't really believe that we're going to need it for the remainder of this episode, as there's not very much more field work that I would really like to do. So we'll jump out of this. The last thing we are going to do is, real quick, we're just going to teleport over to our spinnery and see. Yeah, we've only got one pallet of fabric that's currently out here. Open air greenhouse, or the open air garden, whichever you prefer to call it. It is doing a good job of keeping the spinnery stocked with items here. The other thing that we really could take a look at, though, while we're down this way, is we could go to the tailor shop and just see how much this would cost us to invest in this. I'm going to say it's going to be around $100,000 to maybe $110,000. And yep, right there, $100,000 to purchase the tailor. Well, one thing the month of June did bring for us is $16,000 worth of production costs. That's fun to see, but our thought process worked out. We did spawn 5,000 liters of sunflower seed, which means we probably spawned 5,000 liters of soybeans, which we did, with 665 still in the works. We have the automatic irrigation, so we're not worried about running out of water. Real quick, let's take a look at our spinnery and see how our spinnery is doing as far as cotton is concerned. 23,000 liters. We're looking good. It's running 576 cycles per month. So basically, we're getting about half of a pallet worth of fabric per month. So not too bad, but definitely could be better. We just need to make more money so we can upgrade the spinnery so that we can increase the output. So we will, in the month of June, we will have to move all these pallets over to our silo system and start getting that stuff stored out. Basically, I think what I'm going to probably do is maybe towards the end of the episode that we actually do for the month of June, we'll start moving that stuff around. And with that, the last thing we're going to do in this episode is take a look at our contracts. We kind of got hammered on contracts. We've only got field 22 that we can do as far as a harvesting contract. The baling contract is still out there. Again, with the contracts that we did with the month of May, we are looking at some pretty decent. These fields are completely socked in with weeds. That's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. But we've got a lot of different discounts out there that we have on many of these different fields. Again, field 14, which we've been eyeing up now for a couple episodes, has a 10% discount, currently sells for $104,000. Field 18, we also have a 10% discount on. Field 16, we have a 25% discount on. So anything owned by Jimmy Caldwell, we are completely maxed out on our discount that we're going to get from him. We're 5% off on field 26. Field 11, no discount actually for field 11 yet. Evelyn Carson, we have a 5% discount on for field 22. I think field 11, we're maxed out at 25%. Adrian Hooper, we've been doing a lot of work for her in this series so far. So we're looking pretty good on our discounts across the map here for fields that we want to consider purchasing. Field 4 has been looking pretty good. Field 2 is a decent sized field. Again, there's a 20% discount. So it's all kind of starting to fall into place. Eventually, we are going to be able to purchase some of these larger fields and really start taking a look at getting our own crops going. And hopefully soon we can break away from needing to do so many different contracts. Sales page, the forage wagon, that's actually pretty nice, 26,000 liters. That's not too bad right there. A Ponge auto loading bale trailer that holds 32 bales. Man, you know we like to do some bale contracts around here. That's actually not bad. It's 13% off, which is not a huge discount because realistically it only does cost us $24,000. So it's not like we're really missing out. I mean, yes, we are saving money, but at the same time, it's not like it's something that we need to jump on right now. Otherwise, if this costs anything, if this costs any more, I definitely would probably consider picking this up on the sales page. But for the time being, I don't really think we're missing out too much there on a 13% discount. Yeah, other than that, so there was one thing that I noticed as we get ready to close the episode out here. There's one thing that I noticed here on the price chart. They don't have a price listed for silage. They don't have silage listed here at all. I don't know if that's like an oversight or if it's just not supposed to be on there. Now, what I did is before I started recording, I did run a test. I spawned a bale of silage in and I took it to the animal dealer and I sold it, and it does sell. You do make money from it, but it's just very strange that it's not listed here in the prices menu. So we actually have no idea what silage sells for, period. I just thought that was pretty unique. Maybe it's something that is specific to Frankenmuth Farms, or maybe it just legitimately is missing off of the price list and it should be there. Weird though. Weird that silage is not there. Fellow farmers and friends, I do believe that is going to be a wrap for this episode here from Frankenmuth Farms. I greatly appreciate you guys dropping by, checking out the content, all the interaction that we're getting, the participation in the live streams. I really, really do truly appreciate all the support across the entire channel, whether it's one of the Let's Play series, the beginner guide, or you are dropping by and hanging out in the live streams with us all. Productive day on Frankenmuth Farms. Once again, yes, a lot of contracts done, but some big decisions were made, and I think that is going to benefit us in the long run. Next up on our radar, we do have the harvest coming up for our wheat field, and then we need to also make a decision on whether or not we are going to retain that field or if we're going to flip it, sell it for a profit, and look where else that we can invest our money into farmland in hopes of getting a larger field to where we can have more crop planted, which equals more yield, which equals more money coming in for us on the farm. That's going to do it for this episode here from Frankenmuth Farms. We'll catch you in the next one.